right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Appsmith live streaming event. Today, we have a journey of transformation because we are going to be live coding. That's correct, completely live, nothing pre prepared. It's just going to be us doing live coding. Well, actually, we should call it low coding because you know that Appsmith is the best low code and no code platform out there to build uh, your dashboards. So this is completely live, and I really want to know where are you calling from, where are you joining from. So today is the day that you have to use the chat. From all of the live streamings that we have been together, today is the day that you have to take advantage of the chat conversations because we want to engage with you. We want to know all of the questions that you have. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity to ask all of your questions and get answers about the AppSmith app that you're building, or maybe you have questions about how AppSmith works, or you are building your own application and you're struggling with. This is the moment for you to ask all of the questions. Don't be embarrassed. There are no bad questions. All of the questions are great. So please let us know in the chat where are you joining from, and we're gonna ask you things. Just stay tuned because we're gonna ask you some stuff. You're gonna be part of this live streaming today. So yeah, use the chat. And I'm not alone today. I have another DevRel co-worker, Joseph Petty, who's going to bring right now to the live stream. There it is. Hey, Joseph, how's it
Hey,
going?
how's it going?
I'm doing great. What about you?
I'm excited to figure out what we're building. I don't know what we're doing yet.
Yeah, exactly. So I know you have been really like trying to get your head around what are we going to be building, and I don't know. Did you figure it out yet?
I've been thinking about it all month, and I've got a couple different ideas, but I couldn't decide on anything. And so I thought it would be cool since this is a live event, since it's supposed to be starting from scratch. There's no prep. We've got three different ideas that we can look at today. I'm going to throw out a couple different options, and we're going to let the audience decide. So I think we'll
Nice.
give people a few more minutes to join, check out the comments, see where people are joining from, and then we'll do a quick overview of the different options that we have for today. Dive in a little bit more. I've did do some prep on the use cases as far as like, here's what we could build. Here's a use case and we connect to this. And so I've got some kind of resources staged, but whichever one we pick, we're going to start from scratch. So do we have anything in the chat here that we want to look at, or we're going to go right in?
So right now, just people letting us know where they're joining from. We got Vignesh from India, and we got. I see some people actually looking at the live stream, so don't be embarrassed. Let us know where are you joining from. And like Joseph said, today you're going to be deciding what we are going to be building. So that's even better because you get to decide from some options that Joseph have pre-planned, or he still have some ideas around. So you're going to be able to choose. So let us know in the chat where are you joining from, and oh yeah, we got this from let me see, from Ghana. Nice. A lot of people from all over the world. I'm always excited to see where people joining from on these live streamings because it's completely all over the world. I'm always amazed about how much people are joining from different places.
I'm glad you said something about that. Also, drop in the chat if you're interested in these events, and even if you're watching this afterwards, feel free to mention in the chat. We'd like to know what's the best time of day to do this for the people that are interested. I'm in Florida. Kevin, I think time zone's pretty close for you in Costa Rica, but we have people that join from all over the world, and we are open to doing different times and maybe different events for different regions. So if this is not the best time for you, but you're interested, let us know in the chat. Say you want more night events, or targeting different regions. So let us know how we can help out there. I think we can go on to the first slide if we'll start getting into the different use cases, and as people are joining, and then maybe in about 10 minutes we'll pick one of the ideas.
Exactly. So before we jump into that, I want to remind everyone we are in Hacktoberfest. We're still in Hacktoberfest. You can still submit your ideas, your applications, just go to hacktoberfest.appsmith.com. If you don't know how to participate or what it's all about, everything is over there. How to submit your template, what the different categories are, what the different prices are going to be, and how you can contribute back to Appsmith. So there again, it's the same as the questions. There are no bad questions. There are no bad submissions. You can do a very basic template, or you can do a full application. Don't worry, submit it as a template on the community portal, and you're going to be reviewed by our team, and you might win one of the prizes and be showcased in all of our social media. So with that said, and that we're in Hacktoberfest, we can kick off the live coding. So yeah, Joseph, why don't you just go and let us know what you're thinking about?
Okay, so here's the three ideas. Quick rundown, and then we can kind of talk about details and what the options are inside of each one of these here. But with Jira, we could build a CRUD app that connects to their API that lets you view issues, select one, maybe update it or add a comment. But then say you want to hand this off to Slack and create a front end for everything for your workflow in Appsmith. Select the Jira ticket, and then you could send it to a specific Slack channel, tag a specific user. You can add a prompt that asks them a question to fill out a form, respond a certain way, and then based on their response, that could even kick off another workflow or the next stage and something else back in Jira. So I've kind of experimented with this a little bit with Slack workflows that just came out. There's a bunch of cool use cases. And so I've got basically an account that we can enable the API and then start from scratch building that workflow. The second use case is Airtable, where you've got a row that gets edited under a certain condition. If this field equals, the status is done or priorities urgent, whatever it is. So you've got a condition there, you monitor a field, and if it meets that condition, we want to add a row to Supabase. And so I've got a use case kind of around this that has to do with customer support. And the last one would be just kind of a playground of JS library stuff. There's a ton of different cool use cases that we could do. So we could either pick one that's more focused and really dive in on that one library, or just see everything that we can do, just different examples and kind of touch on several libraries. So let's go on to the first slide here on after this one. We'll look at kind of the details of the use case.
Okay.
And so if we go with this one, we'll start out and enable the Jira API, get a data source set up in Appsmith, and then just be able to view and edit issues, maybe comments as well. I don't want to spend the whole time redoing just CRUD on this endpoint and then CRUD on the next endpoint, right? So like we'll probably just do one thing like issues, and then figure out how to send that to a Slack channel and how to tag a certain user, and then what do you do from there? There's tons of different triggers and different applications that Slack workflows can connect to once we get the connection there. Like once we've done the handoff and we've got like a ticket ID or the link to whatever and send that to Slack, then who knows, it could go to Notion or all kinds of stuff. So that's that one, kind of open-ended on the end there. We'll see what the group is interested in if we go with that and kind of dial the use case in more. Okay, let's go on to the next one.
All right, let's go to the next one. That sounds pretty interesting. So if you want option one, which is the Jira integration, let us know on the channel. Just put number one, or I want number one, whatever you want. Just say the number one, and we'll start counting the votes. But let's take a look at the second option.
Okay, so for this one, I'm thinking like a customer support use case, or maybe like leads or opportunities. So a status is set to closed won, or whatever status that's like triggering the next part. And maybe you've got something in Airtable, but then you've got a disconnected system or another thing you got to tie in. So I'm going to use Supabase, and we'll take that trigger, use N8N to monitor for that field, and then create a new row in Supabase when that condition's met. Once we've got that connection set up, then we could build a CRUD app on Supabase and even like chart some data. So it could be, leads or opportunities, won versus lost, something like that. And this one, I'll be honest, I kind of struggled getting Airtable triggers and the columns and how to actually make N8N pick up those changes. There's some little things with the Airtable API. So this would be a good one to kind of show those things. If people have struggled with that, I've figured out the basics there so that we can build something like this, but we'll start from scratch.
Okay,
So
perfect. So that's option number 2. And let's jump to option number 3. If you want option number 2, let us know in the chat. Put number 2, and this is the option number 3.
okay, and so the last one here, it could have a data source. We'll probably connect something as a sample data source just to have something to tinker with, but it's more so about what can we do with JavaScript and libraries. So it could be any data source, whatever you want to connect, and then we'll do text analysis on it. I found a couple cool libraries recently that can detect parts of speech and tell you if it's verbs or nouns, and tell you like if it's positive or negative sentiment, and just lots of cool stuff. Things you could ask ChatGPT to do, but then that requires like a paid API, and there's hallucinations and it's not repeatable. This would be like real language processing with a library made for it that's going to be repeatable and do the same thing every time, right? Signature pad and P5.js. So basically just a canvas where the user can draw and do stuff, and then you save that as a base64 image that you can send off to a data source. Maybe you're capturing a signature at the end of a form. And full calendar is another cool one we could integrate with. I just published a template on this one. So it's just kind of a starting point that people could use. But if there's interest, we could start over and do that from scratch, show how it was built, or any other library. And the last option I got here is I just learned how to do this yesterday, to write my own library and publish it, get it into JS Deliver, import that back into Appsmith, and then be able to use my own code across multiple apps. So this is just kind of a general category of cool JS library stuff we could do. So let's go back to the second slide.
Back to the exactly, where we have like the overview.
Yeah, so here's the options, 1, 2, or 3. Let us know in the chat what you're interested in. And then once we pick one of these, we'll probably dive in a little bit more on the questions too. So like exactly what JS library or what Slack workflows. So yeah, that's where we're at. Kevin, you want to see what we got in the chat?
Yeah, so we got some people saying that they missed the first option, but yeah, now that we're back, this is like the overview. Option 1, Jira API plus Slack workflows, super interesting. Option 2, Airtable plus NN8 for automation and Supabase as the backend. Or number 3, GS experiments. So we got people already saying we have Dibe. I don't know if that's how to pronounce, but he says that he wants number 3. Then we had
lots of 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Then we got Robert, also number 3. We got Deborah saying also number 3. We got Ron saying number 1 or number 3. Okay. I think number 3 is like gaining some points. Let's see if we got 1 more minute, because we know that sometimes the live streaming can be a bit delayed from what we're talking right now versus what you are hearing. So let's give it just maybe another few seconds for people to vote. Yeah, it looks like number 3.
3's got it.
Let's see if just maybe 20 seconds more, people who want to vote for either of these options. Number 3 is looks like it's winning. You're based in Tallahassee, right, Joseph?
Yeah.
I was just to break the ice and let people vote in the chat. I was watching The Office, rewatching The Office, for 12th time yesterday, and it was this episode where Erin moves to Tallahassee, and all I could think is, I was thinking about you, man.
That's where I'm at in Tallahassee. Yeah, I remember that episode.
That's funny.
Occasionally we show up on TV shows. Yeah, there was something in Walking Dead once, I remember too.
All right, so looks like we are closing the voting right now. No more votes, and it looks like it is number 3.
All right, so there's a bunch of directions we could take this. I'd like to really do things that the group is interested in, and some of these examples I've already posted in the community. I'm happy to cover those things again, but maybe we focus on ones that haven't been done. So now that we know which one we're doing, if you can post in the chat, it can be a specific JavaScript library or just a topic, just the text analysis or whatever it is you're interested in seeing. And I'm going to start just setting up an empty app and maybe get a couple of these links pulled up so that we're ready to do something with the library.
Yeah, sure.
But while people are putting some stuff there in the chat, I'm just going to get set up here. So
Perfect. Yeah. Don't miss out this opportunity now that we selected number 3. Yeah, interact with us and let us know what type of JavaScript library would you like us to pull off. And yeah, it looks like people are very interested in JavaScript integration within Appsmith, right? The other option seems very interesting, like bringing other data sources or integrations, but it seems like JavaScript experiments, it's like what's hot right now.
yeah.
All right, somebody's saying here, Carlos, let me pull up that comment. HTML to PDF to start. Okay.
HTML to PDF. Okay.
HTML to PDF. Thank you, Carlos, for your comment. Full calendar JS as well. He's saying full calendar JS. I'd like to see full calendar JS as well. If I may vote myself. All right, so let me just toggle off the presentation now that we know what are we going to be building. For those who are just joining, we're going to be building from scratch an application people just voted. We didn't have anything pre-prepared, and people selected the option number 3. We got 3 options. One was with Jira integration, the second one was Airtable, and the third one is like JavaScript libraries integration, and that's the option that we picked and people picked. So that's what we're going to be building in any time that you want. Joseph, you want to share your screen? I know that you're setting up like the account, but that's fine. I think that also people might learn from what we think is basic. But for them, it will be really nice to see how to create the account, how you set up your applications. Because for those who are watching, Joseph is our master. Like I've learned so much myself from Joseph, and anything he does that's probably basic for him, it could be something that you don't know. So you don't want to lose it.
Well, all right. I think we can go ahead and get started then. And I've pulled up a couple things here just to kick it off with HTML to PDF. So go ahead and share. All right. So I have started a new workspace just for this app, and I've got a new empty app here. And I did this because the data sources live at the workspace level. And today we want to start completely from scratch. So if we end up needing like, hey, look at that. If we end up needing a new data source or anything that we're going to connect, we'll do that from scratch. And I want to start somewhere that there's nothing connected yet. So here on the sidebar, you can see the libraries that ship with Appsmith. We already have Lodash and Moment and a few others.
Sorry to cut you up. Joseph, can you zoom in your screen so that people can...
Good Yep.
There you go.
Oh, so on the
look
sidebar,
at that comment. Sorry, Robert. That's a lot of handsome guys. Thank you, Robert. That's motivation for Joseph to kick in.
Yep.
All right, go ahead.
We have the 4 libraries that ship with Appsmith, but you can add your own. The plus here will show you a bunch of ones that we're already that we've tested that work well. UUID is a really common one that, just to generate an ID on the client side. Do we have HTML to PDF in here yet? It doesn't look like that's one of the ones we already have in here. So I've pulled up from JS Deliver here, HTML to PDF, and we just added support for ESM libraries. So if you have tried to use a specific library in Appsmith before and it wouldn't import, there's a whole bunch of new ones that work now. It's worth going back and trying that again. That being said, there's still some that aren't going to import. We block anything that tries to access the DOM or the window object for security. We're relaxing some of that soon with an update, but a lot of these, if you encounter one that won't import, make sure it's a min.js or an ESM or UDM library. If that's still not it, you can always try a different CDN, a different source. But in the long run, there can be some that don't import. I have used this one, at least some version of HTML to PDF before, so I'm hoping this one's going to import. But this is live coding and things are going to break. So here we go. That one did not import. Okay, let's see what else there is. One option, just a really low version number. Is this the right one? HTML to PDF. Let's check here again. Okay, that has a lot of downloads. I'm not sure if this is bundle. I want to copy just the URL, not the whole script tag. And we'll see if this one imports. And another thing we can do is use this in a iframe. Oh, cool, we got one that imports. Yep. So that's pretty common. It's not the library itself that won't import. It could be the CDN. It could be the way that it's bundled, the format, whatever. So don't give up on the first one you try. Try other sources for other places that code's hosted. After 3 or 4 of them, if it's still not importing, maybe try like in GitHub, see if there's an issue on that one. People will post there if there's a specific library that we don't support yet, and we can try to add that. So now that we've got a library, let's figure out what we can do with it. This library, let's see, console usage. Basically, we just want to figure out how to take the HTML, an element, and then turn it into a PDF. And this .save, I think, would create a prompt for the user to download it. This library uses this kind of chaining functions in an async way. It's this shortcut notation that makes it really easy to work with, so that you can say, create a PDF from this element, and you pass that in.
Sorry, Joseph, can you also zoom in this screen so that people can read better? Thank you.
Yeah, and then you want to save that to a container or to a canvas, or create an image once you've converted it. And now that it's a PDF, you want to save it. So you can chain together these types of functions with HTML to PDF. But let's just start out with like the basics just to get something working. So this says that if we give it an HTML element, first we need this HTML PDF thing running in our JavaScript, right? We have to like create an instance of it so that we can do something with it. So let's get some HTML here. I'm going to copy this and start with a new JS object over here. And so the first thing that I'll do is just create like a template literal. So 2 backticks and paste this in here and call this our doc. So we have a string that can feed the HTML input, the element. And now we want to use this new library that we just imported, HTML to PDF. So I'll create a new function and generate PDF. We'll say that this function just want to return something here. So I'm just defining a function and then saying return test, just to get something set up here. So we have our HTML doc string here, and then a function that we want to use to generate a HTML doc, or sorry, a PDF doc from the HTML. So now we got to find this new library, this HTML to PDF thing, and I'm going to define a new doc. Tell you what, this is confusing. I'm going to make this the element, and this the doc. So doc equals HTML. There it is. Now that this library is installed, you just start typing its name, and you can see that this is a function. Sometimes the library will be an object that has multiple functions in it, but this one is a function. So I'm using that name and invoking the function with parentheses. And now that this doc is created, we can do stuff with it. So let's put the string in here for what we want to create. I think it's doc.from. Yeah, so you create it without any parameter and then run .from on it with the element in it. And sometimes you got to do these async. I'll try without it first, just to see what it does. So we don't want to return yet. Let's do doc.from element. and then maybe we won't return it. We'll try that save. So .save, that should pop up a dialog to save this PDF. Says it did not return anything. Doc from save to PDF first, maybe. I have some example apps where I've done this already, but I'm trying to relearn it. if we have to, I'll pull up the app where I've done this before.
Yeah.
We're
And
doing
well,
it.
I mean, that's sorry to cut you up, but that's one thing that's cool about Appsmith, that we have templates and we have the community portal, which we showcase a bunch of examples, and you can also use any of the existing
Yeah.
templates that are forkable, and you just change, for example, if you need credentials for any type of database, or if it's just like a front end type of JavaScript example, you don't need anything, you can start from there. So it's valid to not only start from scratch, to also start from a template.
I think that the creating of the document might need to be async. Okay, that's interesting. It got further, reading from. Without async, it seems like it didn't even attempt to run that, or it didn't wait for it. And now it did wait for it, and it says that the from is where it failed, but that's a different error. So that's a good clue. I am going to pull up something where I've done this before just to kind of review, to save some time, and then we'll go back here and do it from scratch. So HTML to PDF. I know I've done this at least a few places, but it has been a while. Oh, this one I'm doing in an iframe. So like I said, there's a couple ways to approach this. You can see that this one's JS PDF, and all of this code is running in an iframe, generating the PDF inside the iframe instead of importing the library. So that is not the one I'm looking for. Give me just a minute.
That's okay. In the meantime, while you are looking for that, I want to remind everyone to go to the community portal in case you don't have an account. That's where we showcase all of the different examples, tutorials, guides, and even integration documentation, like this type of things. So don't miss out the opportunity to be there, create an account, comments. You have the ability to bookmark also. If you find something interesting, you can bookmark to your account, and you can have an easy reference from different templates and examples. So yeah, I see people scanning the QR code already. That's great. It's community.appsmith.com, but you can also scan the community portal and go straight to that place.
Okay. Sorry, I've got so many different versions of this stuff that I've experimented with over time. This one, PDF, doc size, PDF output. I'm trying to figure out which library I'm using in this one.
That's totally fine. While you do that, again, another reminder about the Hacktoberfest. Make sure to participate if you haven't. Like I said, there are no bad submissions. Like, for example, if you, after this call, want to create a sample app, like from PDF to to HTML to PDF, or any other JavaScript library, as Joseph is showing, you can import any JavaScript library from JS Deliver. Now we support ESM builds, which is amazing. You can integrate any type of EmacScript modern version libraries into Appsmith, and you can participate. You just submit your template, and you are going to be participating, and you can win some amazing prizes. We are 1 week or less than a week. We're actually in the last week of a Hacktoberfest, so make sure to submit your template before the end of October, and we're going to be sharing who the winners are November the 1st.
All right. Hey, I just found a different one. I was using JS PDF. This is a little different. It rather than using HTML as a source, it lets you like programmatically construct a PDF saying like add a line here with this font and whatever. So the source isn't HTML, but that's another option. I've got example of that set up. I am not finding the old HTML to PDF one. I think I might have tried this at one point and switched to JS PDF, but we can keep hammering on this or try a different library. So
yeah. Well, that's the good thing about Appsmith, that if you maybe you didn't you couldn't do it with the library you picked up, you can just go to another library and try again. Like I said, we support multiple JavaScript libraries. Um, and since we're in a live coding session and we want to make sure that you learn a lot, we're not gonna, like, for example, try to debug, but at your own pace at home, you can very easily just take a look at the documentation, examples of the library itself before going back to the Appsmith, and then try on your own JavaScript object some examples. If that doesn't work, maybe you can reach out to the maintainers or ask on GitHub. That's the beautiful thing about open source, that you can go to any community, ask for help, and for sure you're going to get some answers. But for the sake of this live streaming, yeah, obviously we wouldn't want to waste time, and we want to be mindful about your own time and showcase something that is helpful for you. So while you're doing that, Joseph, I see a question that I'm going to pull up here. Let me just hide this banner.
Okay.
Rakesh is asking Kevin and Joseph a quick question for both of you, please. What could be the best tech stack for a screenplay text editor with collaboration and version control features? That's a good idea. So I don't know if, like, you're talking about a screenplay software, like for TV shows or for even films, where they have like the screenplay of a given movie or of a given script,
Right.
and that people can make comments and feedback about that. If that's the case, Rakesh, definitely the type of things that Joseph is doing right now, something that you can use. There are multiple JavaScript libraries where you can grab a text, so you can store the screenplay on any database. We support NoSQL databases like MongoDB, or SQL databases like MySQL or Postgres, or even SQL Server. So you can store your screenplays over there, and then you can build very easily an application that pulls the data from the different repository of your screenplays, and then use JavaScript for people to make comments. And you can store the comments and annotations on and also store that on your database. And then you can pull back all of the comments and create versions of each document for each version. So I think that's something you can use. Obviously, it requires a bit more complexity because you're required to have databases and also some object manipulation. But I do remember last week we were on Appsmith Innovate, and Joseph showcased 10 tips and tricks, and one of those was on how to put elements on a canvas, on an HTML element. He actually put on the office map. Thank you for the office references always, Joseph. He put like the different locations of the office, people in the actual office map. So you could do something very similar where you can put annotations on a screenplay document, and then store the location of those comments, and there you will have people making comments and feedback of the screenplay, if that's what you're looking for. But definitely a great idea. I think we could in the future use this as a reference for a sample app, and maybe even create a template out of it. Another question here. Pratamesh is asking, well, can you tell us about the client side setup, please? I think that's what Joseph is doing right now, and showcasing how we do the client setup, which is basically creating an Appsmith application. Once you have that, you can import any JavaScript library into it from GSDeliver or any type of CDN that supports JavaScript libraries. It could be ESM or it could be UMD. Those are the type of JavaScript builds that we support, which is pretty much everything modern right now, are EmacScript version JavaScript libraries. So yeah, Joseph, how's it going on
All
your
right.
end?
Yeah, I was gonna show this other PDF one that I've started before, and then we can use that library, the one that I've found that is working. So, like I said, sometimes you have trouble importing, or it'll import, and then you might not be able to actually get it to do what you want. So just try another library. This JS PDF is another option, and let me show you what I made with this real quick. This one lets you programmatically build up a PDF from your data, HTML to PDF. I think this is the one. No. Just a second. Okay. So I've got some background images here, and I want to plot these fields. Take data from a row of data and put those field names across this image here. And then I can select like a different image, and it's got different data points that it's plotting, different font and everything. And then you can merge that template with data from one of your APIs or databases. You select a row, and it'll plot and put all those fields there. And then the field mapping, here's a list of fields and the XY point that I want to place all these on here. And then I can edit these right here, or I've got this guidelines thing. And so if I want to move this name up a little bit, I can say the employee name here. I want to make the X value a little less and save that. And then you can watch the line move. I think that was the wrong one. I want to bring this. Yeah, so that's too high. So if I want to save that where the guidelines are, save position, and then it updates the XY point for that one text thing. So that's what we can build towards. And I want to just show how it looks working first before we dive in and try to build that. Got the bar turned off at the top here to go to edit mode.
Actually, this example you mentioned is what I was telling the person who commented out, Rakesh, about building like a screenplay. It's pretty much the same, where you have like your documents, and then if you want to save comments on specific documents, you just need the X and Y portion of where that comment is located in the document, and then you create versions of those comments.
Yep. So I'm taking the XY inputs from that position. That I got two different sliders, and this lets you pick a point, and then it plots those lines on here, and then you can save that back. So I just want to review the code because I haven't looked at this in a little while, and it'll help us kind of replicate this. So let's see, where does it start using the library? This one is JS PDF. I've got some options that I define up here just to make it easy to work with. This part is running the functions that merge the initial one and just populate it on the screen. But you can see there's a lot of async stuff here. And so this can be tricky when you're using an external library. Here I have to say new JS PDF, and it creates this instance or object that you can do things with. So now this PDF has methods inside of it. And some of these things have to be async for it to work. And if you look at the docs, the way they're using it, it might not be async there, or they don't have to call it that way. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to get these to work. If you might need to make the function async, you might need to await certain steps. This one isn't, but you define a PDF and then you can do some stuff to it. And this lets me like modify the size based on the image. So let's see, I'm looking up some parameters here for styling, but I could hard code that. I've just gave a place that you can save the settings. And then I map over everything, and field map is an array of all those XY points. And for each point, it's just looking to see if it's a number and then putting that value into the PDF. So PDF.text is this JS PDF method that adds a value. Where is it? Doc.add. Somewhere in here it should show some examples of it. That you can JS PDF, you just do like .add and then tell it where you want that text to be positioned. And sorry, I'm bouncing all over the place here. Back to this one. So that's just saying that the X value is coming from that field object, that row that I've got the X, Y's in, the Y there, and then save the string itself. Put that field's text string there. And I built this in a way that can like look up all that data and go over it and map this set into the PDF, and then you download that. That's a little complex. We don't have to go that far, but I'd like to get something hard-coded to where we can just say, here's the text we're adding, push a button, and it creates a PDF with that raw text into a file. So we'll start with trying to build that much, and then we could look at making it dynamic and connecting this whole table. Okay, so let's get the right library that I used here. JS PDF, it looks like I had used this one before and it worked. So I will try importing this one into the next app where we're starting from. Oh, actually, this is one of the ones that's stock, JSPDF. It knows which one to use.
Yeah, JSPDF.
You don't have to go find that library. Okay, how about instead of our HTML input here,
maybe you can make it and one more zoom in. I think there you go. That's way better. Thank you.
Okay, and async generate a PDF. So let's go back and look at JSPDF docs now. Doc.text, and you tell it where you want to put that text. So here's some text, and then here's the XY point, and then doc.save, and that should invoke that save and download. So this part should work if I create the new. Actually, I can even copy that line. The exact way that you invoke it here can be slightly different in our editor. But then after that, after you've defined it, the rest of it tends to work the same way. So we will start out with trying to define a new doc. There it is, JSPDF. And do you see how it's an object now? When I showed the other one, the first thing that auto-completed for HTML to PDF, that was the function. That was it. This one's an object, and inside of that object, is the function JSPDF. Okay, and that's slightly different than the format that you see here, where it's just new JSPDF. So little things that can trip you up when you're trying to figure out how to implement a library in Appsmith. The syntax just to initiate it can be slightly different, but then after that, this should be the same. So I've got a new JSPDF. Let's see what we can do from here. Okay, it's not returning anything, but it shouldn't actually return. I just want it to prompt a download of the document, and I think that should work from here, but we will try it from the canvas just to make sure, see if that's the issue. So I will add a new button. What are you playing in the background there, man? That's nice.
Well, it's actually the streaming software. It has some music auto-generated with AI. AI is all over the place. But yeah, it's like lo-fi. I know you have really good music taste, Joseph. So it's hard to to make sure to have music that is good for you.
Yeah. Okay, so PDF.text, that adds some text to it. Here I'm doing a whole bunch of that, but basically we want to see what comes next to actually create it. So output PDF is PDF.output data string. Let's try that. So the dot output method of JSPDF. I am not on their full docs here. It's just, yeah, I only had a couple small examples. Output, okay. When you go to output a PDF from JSPDF, it asks you what format, and there's data URI string or data URL string. You can call it either one. But this should display in our document editor because that expects a URL, but it doesn't have to be the normal kind of URL, like to a website. It can be a data URI. So we'll do output data URI and then try to display that. All right, so a data URI is the base 64 data of whatever it is that you're trying to display. This, before it was base 64 encoded, is like the actual PDF text. So that gets base 64 encoded. And then a data URI string just puts this at the front of it that says, here's some data. It's application PDF, whatever, and the type. And then this should display in our document viewer. So Okay, and normally this takes a URL, but again, a data URI works, which is in our JS object. Generate PDF data. There it is.
Cool.
And so there's some text that came from our code. And now that we have a way to take code and dump that into a PDF, you could write a function that maps over a bunch of your code and creates that. So I'm going to try something with the AI here. Let's see if we can generate some data. I've done this with SQL, and it'll generate some hard-coded data for you. But I'm going to see if it can do like some random user data. So
this thing that Joseph is going to use is one of our newest feature. It's called contextual prompts, and it's going to basically use AI. We announced this last release jam, and it uses AI, but it analyzes the data sources that you have in case you're asking for SQL, or in this case, since it's going to be using JavaScript, it's going to also analyze the JavaScript that you are at and give you an actual useful prompt. So if you're not, great at SQL or you're not great at JavaScript, you can always use the power contextual AI. There you go.
Yep, I was having trouble getting it to pop up there. It's a little more straightforward when you're in a field where that's everything, like a text widgets property, right? Like the entire box there. Here, I'm trying to get the AI to pop up in just this little chunk of my code. 10 random users. Let's see if it can do it. I like to give it like half prompts, like not full sentences, just to see how good it is. And then if I can't get it, then I'll be a little more descriptive.
Yeah, I've seen Joseph prompts versus my prompts. And he's super broad and very specific, like what I need. But yeah, most of the times it works, but sometimes, it has to be a little bit more specific to generate some code that is useful for the context that you are at that moment, whether it is a JavaScript function or a SQL prompt.
Okay. The other day, it really surprised me when I tried this. I thought it would hard code and just return some, like 10 users, but it used the random user.me API. I was really impressed, and now it's not doing it.
Yeah. Also, we have seen that sometimes, and this is something that, as you can see over there, is a beta functionality. Sometimes the different AI backend API services that we use to analyze certain portions of what we want to create, they might be down. Oh, there you go.
There it is.
It worked.
Yes. Okay. So not perfect, not quite every time, but now we've got some data that we could map over and create PDFs from. For some reason, I had to comment out this before it would start auto-completing there. So let's get that back. Okay, so we've got hard-coded PDF from this one line of text here, and we've got some data that we could map over to create a PDF. So now we could say that this text that we're adding here, it could be coming from this data up here. So let's put it in the table. We'll select a row, and then next to that, we can make a PDF from that one row. Okay, so this will be the output. And on the left, we want a table. There it is. Okay, so as we select different rows, we want to pass in that data and generate a PDF based on that person. Now, we'll say that the selected row is what we pass into this function, so that the default user that we pass in, I'm going to give this a default value of table one selected row. And then here, for the first piece of text that we add, we could get that user's name, but the data is kind of nested. I think it's name.first, yeah. And we should just be able to copy this and do their last name. What else? Location. Street is still an object. This thing's really nested. And here I think I'll use a template literal so that I can put the number in the name with a space. So we write that in backticks. So that's a variable. Copy space and then the name. And I think that's good. I'll take out this one. So let's see what that looks like. Oh, I didn't change the position. They're all on the same line, but it should be pulling from that. So could probably make the text bigger too. This is the XY. So I think I just want to keep incrementing the Y. That one can stay. We'll make this one 20, 30. Let's see what that looks like. That's the users. There. So we've got a good start. We're looking at the data here, but it's not updating the function. So we want the row select to rerun the function that generates this PDF, the data URI. So on this table, we'll say the row selection, row selected action will generate the PDF again. Okay, that text is really small. So before we go adding the lines, I want to add some formatting so that it applies to all of them. It's a lot like when you're in Word or a text editor or whatever, you change your font and then everything after that will have it. So you don't have to say those font options on each individual line that you're adding. We just got to change it once before we start. Just need to find font size. Set font size is a number. So I think I can take that PDF doc object that's got all the methods in it and just do dot set font and then give it a number. Maybe not. Set font, 2 lowercase is not a function. Set font size and then the, okay. Doesn't seem a whole lot bigger.
Yeah, you might want to do like 80.
Yeah, I don't know if that was it or if I got to give it units like pixels or something. Let's see.
There is no like an Excel.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, okay. I guess 20 was just close to what it already was. And now you can see that there's overlap and it's also starting really close to the top. I don't want to spend a ton of time making this look good because I think we've shown enough here to kind of teach some stuff. And then we can move on to another library. But just to kind of clean it up real quick, I'll double the increments here that I'm using to move it down each line, 20, 40, 60. I think that's about it. Is there anything specific PDF wise that you guys would like to see before we go to a different library?
Yeah, if you have any specific needs or ideas
we could try
around generating
one again too, since we weren't able to get that working right off. We could go back and try the HTML one, or we could go on to those text parsing things or data conversions, tons of different libraries. So up to you guys. I want to keep this exciting and interesting for whoever's watching. So let us know what you want to see next.
Yeah, I think that for the sake of the first demo or the first portion, definitely done. So what you did is create an application from scratch. you didn't knew what exactly JavaScript library to use, and that's fine. That's like the normal case for any developer. You just went ahead and find some libraries in GS Deliver that can work for the specific case scenario that you're trying to solve. You put that into Java into Appsmith, and then try to create a JavaScript object. And just, that's what you have to do. Go to the documentation, see the different functions that they have, how they work, and you can use the debugger just like Joseph did on Appsmith, and see how the different steps on the debugger are working or not, and go back to the documentation. That's normally what we do here when we're trying to build our own applications. But the cool thing is that, yeah, we support most of the JavaScript libraries out there. You just need to understand how the actual JavaScript library works, and then apply that into your JavaScript objects. And using JS binding, you can bind data from your data sources or from your canvas back and forth into the canvas. And as you can see, Joseph created a table of data, which you could also even make the table editable, edit the values on the table, and automatically update the PDF. And then you can just download the PDF, because the JavaScript library supports downloading that specific PDF that was generated on the fly within Appsmith. So that's really great. So I think people are talking here about parsing. We have Dibe saying text parsing, that he would like to understand more about the parsing. And then we have Carlos, who's also talking about full calendar JS, which I think people are talking about full calendar JS a lot.
Yeah. So the full calendar one, I did just post a tutorial on that, but I think we could still mess around with it. I want to do the text parsing one real quick first, because that one's pretty easy, but it's got a ton of different use cases. I just want to show a few things real quick, and then we'll go on to the other one.
Perfect. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So this is a new library I just found, new to me anyway, that works in Appsmith now, that we support ESM. When we first released the external library feature, it was only UDM libraries, and still some cool stuff you could do. But after the update, I kind of went back and dig through, finding different things that we can suddenly do now. And this is a really cool library. It has data dictionaries, like all these terms that it can compare to. So it knows, just a massive list of verbs and nouns and whatnot. And you can give it a whole phrase and it'll turn it to past tense. It'll find the words that are verbs and make them past tense. You can ask it if this thing is written in past tense, and it'll tell you true or false. There's just so many cool things. This one looks for, it'll tell you how many syllables a word is, which means it understands pronunciation. It's not just counting the number of characters. And just lots of cool stuff. So the docs for this will show you what can be done with it. I just want to import the library and then show a couple use cases so others can jump off and go from there. It also does some cool math stuff, man. Somewhere in here, fraction. Yeah, I think we'll go ahead and we'll test this one. I'll do an example of it. So enough talking about it here. I'm going to import this library. All right, first one worked. And I'm just going to start a separate JS object just to keep this stuff clean. And maybe afterwards we can share the app and people have examples of this stuff. So we'll call this one compromise JS. Okay, so we're going to have some kind of input text string that we want to run this on, and then a function. And the other day, I was using our website, just grabbing some copy from here. So we're going to use this as our input string. Okay. And then I'll have a function that parses this. And at first, I'm just going to return, let's see, did I miss a line there? And I like to just do this first, just to make sure I've got everything's valid. Sometimes if you skip the comma here at the end and it's not seeing this function, stuff like that. So get just kind of a shell started here, and then const comp. I think this, trying to remember how the docs on this one. I think I can I'll just call it doc, and I think we can do, yeah, the string that we want to start with. So the way this library works is you feed it a string, run compromise on it, and then that gives you access to a bunch of functions to analyze it. So the thing that I'm creating the doc out of here that we want to use this compromise library on is this .myvar1. And then what method do we want to run on it? So to get the fractions, this one doesn't have that in there, but I'll add something that would detect it, and then we'll run doc.fractions.json. What is going on here? I think I've got some syntax here that is throwing it off and not saving. So we've got the doc that we're creating from this string. Let me just refresh and make sure that's saved. Doc.fractions is a function, and then JSON. It's always tricky trying to remember which one's an object or which one's a function that needs the parentheses. Sorry, looks like my connection is getting a little slow here.
That's fine. In the meantime, while it loads, we can see some of the questions on the chat. We got someone here, Adama. He says, "Hey, I'm Adama, Sakna React.js developer, lives in Dakar, Senegal. I like the way you explain the modules to us. Thank you. I'm a young developer specialized in React.js and open to new professional opportunity." And now that you said that, Adama, I would like to invite anyone who's like looking for new opportunities to go to the community portal, because in the community portal we have the capability to explain if you are open for work, and you're going to have a badge on your profile, and you will be able to see different opportunities. And maybe in the future we have some cool ideas for the community portal for those people who are looking for a new gig. So again, go to the community portal and make sure to create your account, and if you are looking for a new job, make sure to select that and also fill your CV over there. We have all of the different data points, so you can update where have you been working, what do you know, and also make sure to create sample applications, submit templates, showcase what you know, and that definitely is going to help out to build your resume online. So make sure to definitely go to community portal and create an account. There's also another question around how to use TypeScript, and actually Ron, who is the head of the DevRel team here, he actually already answered on the chat, which is you cannot use TypeScript in Appsmith apps directly, but you can use the iframe to create custom widgets, and you can use TypeScript based code over there. So that's definitely a good solution to that specific case scenario.
Cool. Thanks, Kevin. Okay, man, I got the formatting here. If we want to jump back in. So I added a line to our test string here to test this fractions. And so just to be silly here, I got 9 out of 10 doctors prefer Appsmith. And this library detects that phrase of a number out of, or any other phrase that would mean a ratio, and then another number. And so it has detected the string itself, like the source of a possible ratio, right? And then it breaks it down into all the different values, if they're like whole numbers, or if it's a decimal or something, a confidence score. So it's like 60% confident that this is actually which to me, I would think that would be even closer, like 80 or 90. But and then at the end of all of this, it has the actual like numerical decimal. So given this whole phrase that somewhere in here is a fraction, right? It's detected that, it gives you a huge breakdown, and then at the end, here's the actual numerical portion. So you could run this on your own text, and if you're going to get an email report every week that's got something like that in there, it could extract that data and automate finding that number for you. So that's just one example. Another cool one I wanted to show with this library is the sentiment. And I think this one might have needed a plugin, a separate library that I installed. I tested this out a few weeks ago, and not sure, I might have to install a separate library. But it does, it detects like if it's positive or negative. And so this would be like a really cool customer support use case. You could like automatically escalate things that come in that sound really negative, and get notification. Whereas one that sounds like everything's fine, it's not as urgent. So I don't want to spend too much time digging for that library. I forgot it was a separate plugin I needed to use. Let's maybe switch over to full calendar. Does that work, or are there any questions there that we want to check out? What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, I don't know. Let's see if people maybe answer on the chat.
TypeScript. Yeah, he answered the TypeScript one.
Yeah. There might be some delay, so let's see if we got some questions in the chat. But actually, someone asked about domains. That's an interesting question, because when you are using the cloud version, you can just hit the deploy button and you will get an URL specifically for your application that you can even make public or invite the people that you want to access that specific application. But in terms of different domains, what would you suggest, Joseph? Just create a DNS on your record that points to that URL of the Appsmith app, or is there any other option out there?
Yeah, and it also is going to depend on your deployment setup, and if you're doing this at a VPC and what other resources, if you make your Mongo and everything external, right? So there's not a really one size fits all solution. It depends on your existing infrastructure. Are you already behind a VPC or whatnot, right? There's a lot of considerations. But in the Appsmith admin settings of the server, there's a place to put in your custom URL, your domain name, and then to get that to work and to have access, that's all going to depend on how you're set up if you're behind a VPC.
Yeah, exactly. And depending if you're running like self-hosted on your own infrastructure, that also depends specifically on your own architecture. Yep. So there's no formal answer to that question, but definitely depends on your stack. But there is a possibility and multiple possibilities to do that. So thank you, Dibe. We're delightful that you liked it. So yeah, Joseph, I don't know if we got any other example that we want to explore or the...
Yeah, so I'm going to show the full calendar one that I already made again, just like before, so we kind of know what we're working towards, what's possible, and just to also get a refresher myself of how I implemented it, and then we'll start from scratch and build it. So here is what I have already. And I just uploaded this as a template to the community portal. So anybody that wants to copy this, it's already out there. This is an Appsmith widget. Everything else is an iframe. There's just the two widgets on this page. So this is like a dummy placeholder, basically, showing that you can build maybe a CRM with an events tab. And then the entire page is this iframe. It's interactive. It's showing a whole list of events. You can click on an existing event and bring up its details. If you click an empty spot, then that type of click event populates a new event that you can create, put in a title and save it. I don't have a data source connected to save it yet. It's just the library side of the implementation here. But basically you've got click events for navigation, jumping to today, and then one type of event for clicking an empty spot to create an event, and one for clicking an existing one to view it, or this could be an edit. There's a lot of data that full calendar returns, and its data structure for events. And what you do with it and how you're going to implement this really depends on your data source. So all I've done here is give you a way to tie in your actions. Clicking a blank one is one thing, clicking an existing is another. So I just want to get the library, the exact link that I used, and then we can jump over and do this on ours. Oh, and you know what? This one, This one does not import the library. We should show this too before we switch over. So this one is using JS to construct the HTML, but the library is actually running in the iframe, not imported into Appsmith. So you can see I still only have the stock like 4 libraries that we include here.
Right.
So this file, I've got some sample data. This is the format that Full Calendar expects for your events. You know, you might call it name or whatever, but before you can connect your data to Full Calendar, you got to map it over into this format so it knows what to expect. And so I've just set my sample events up that way. And then let's see, event data, HTML doc. So here is the doc that runs the iframe, and you can see that I'm importing this Full Calendar. That's the index. Yeah, that's it. I'm using Full Calendar in the iframe, but I'm not importing it into Appsmith. And then Full Calendar has this config, so it's really simple to implement it. You give it a list of these like config options of, do you want to show weekends? Do you want the icon buttons to be icons or text? You know, and most of this is hard coded. The calendar, the HTML here is like hard coded. The view is this is this. But then when I get to the color, I'm using a template literal to grab the theme of this particular app, and the event data is loaded in that same way using a template literal. Here's background color, but I mean, other than that, it's all hard coded. So if you take an example from Full Calendar's docs or any other library, and just take their hard-coded example, paste it in here with backticks as a template literal, and then just merge in your data as this one little chunk that's dynamic. When this data changes, then that's going to re-render the whole iframe. And so just running my sample event query, this is hard-coded, but if it was a real query, when you rerun that get events, that would just re-render your whole calendar. So when you use a template literal like this, keep it in mind, when that input and that binding changes, it's going to rerun the entire page, which could be okay, but maybe you want to preserve that state. So the other option is that you post the data into the iframe. That way the page doesn't reload, you're just sending data into it. So either of those options is possible, but that is the starting point, basically, is to take Full Calendar from their docs, their HTML, and just paste that in. So we'll start that way. Get started. You get some demos. Looking for like the most basic implementation of it. Row display. Okay, so you could use the min.js. There's a bundled one that's got everything. This is showing you how to do each individual one. And if you look at the one that I used here, this global, I think it just has all that stuff bundled so that you can reference the theme stuff and the icons and whatnot, and not have to do all of that from scratch. So instead of digging through their docs to find where I got this, I mean, it's still the same thing. We're starting from an example from their docs. That's where I got this one. So I will use that for my starting point over here. And we'll start a new JS object for the Full Calendar. Okay, and now this is looking for sample data that I don't have in this app. However, we did create a function over here that's got some data. And so I think I can, I could connect to that, but it doesn't have dates, right? So building from scratch like this, when if you've got an existing data source and you're going to connect to that, you could map and kind of relabel those fields to fit. I don't have any event data to pull from. And since we're live coding and want to go quick here, I think it just makes more sense to borrow these sample events here too. I want to do as much as we can from scratch, but you guys don't want to watch me make up event names here for an hour. So I guess I can put this in the same one, full calendar. Okay. So there's the theme binding this.event data. Here it's just called data. Okay, and you can see I have defined this as a variable. It is not a function, it's just a variable. And you tend to have to refresh the page or run a function that would force that variable to update. So anytime you're working with something like that, it's not a function, like if you change something in your code, you might have to refresh to get to see that variable change on the page. Whereas if it was a function, it would do it automatically.
That's great. And actually, Joseph, last week during the Appsmith Innovate, which is already on YouTube, on our Appsmith YouTube, Joseph showcased how to send data back and forth from an iframe. So, because if you think that an iframe is not so powerful within Appsmith, in the Appsmith context, it is. It's not just a way to show data within an iframe. You can actually interact with the iframe back and forth, send data, respond to events, etc. So it's not just a way or a workaround. It is actually something very useful and powerful within Appsmith.
All right. So I've copied this hard-coded HTML. Almost all of it's hard-coded. The only thing that's dynamic in there is I'm passing in the color for the theme and then some hard-coded data. So really it's all hard-coded. It's just in two pieces, if that makes sense. But that template literal that's merging in some event data, it's just more hard-coded stuff down here, right? It just kind of keeps this a little neater. But basically all we've done is displayed hard-coded data in an iframe. It's not interactive yet. It's not doing anything. So the next thing that we need to do is set up some click events. And this iframe, this code that I've written already, is trying to post a message to Appsmith, but we're not listening yet. So on message received, what do we want to do? The way I approached it is a modal. I have two different modals, one for creating, one for editing. And so I'm going to say that on message received, I want to open up a modal. Which modal? Create a new one. And so as I click here, the code was already posting a message. It just didn't do anything with it. Now I'm clicking and the iframe receives a message. And so it's pulling up that modal. But there's nothing in the modal. It doesn't do anything yet. And it's doing the same thing for empty events and for existing ones because it's all the same one event. So we are getting a little close on time here. I just want to show how this was finished out because I don't think we'll get all of this. But if you look at the JS object on message received over here, there's only one thing that can happen when an iframe receives a message. Either you're not doing anything or you use the on message received, but then it can only do one thing, right? And we're trying to make it do two. Like if you click blank, we want to do one thing. If you click the existing event, we want to do something else. So you need a function that can tell what was clicked and then do some logic there. So that's what I have over here on the on message received. And there's a message that comes in, and then it's going to have an e.event if that event, let's see, if the selected event, if it actually equals that value, I'm showing one modal to like show the selected event. And then if there's nothing there, if it's like an empty object, then I'm showing the blank modal. So if we look at the code of the iframe itself, there's two different things that post a message to the parent window. So this function, send to Appsmith, it says take this event and post it to the parent window. And this asterisk here is for the content security policy cross origin so that it can work across domains. Then then we post that message to the parent window, and it needs to do something with it. Well, when it gets that event, there's no data. It's like, this is a little confusing. There's like click events when you're talking about HTML and posting a message and whatnot, that type of event. And then there's the calendar event that has properties of a date and a start and whatever, right? So the calendar event that gets posted in that click event won't have any data if it's empty. And that's my logic. That's the switch, so that when it receives a message, it looks to see, does this thing have a name? Does it have a start or an end? If not, it's just an empty object. They click the blank one. And so then I can show the empty modal that lets you create an event. And if it's the other one, then there's a modal that lets you view that data. So I think what we can do real quick is just the view one instead of making it dynamic. So let's show something here about the event that was clicked. Okay, so the iframe posted a message, and that's what made this modal open. That message is still there until it posts another message, or you refresh the page or whatever. You can still go back and look at that message. It doesn't have to be like the instant it was sent. It's hanging out there waiting for us to reference it. So that's all the data that it's sent in, but we don't need all that. Ends with, let's see, message string, message metadata object. We might have to parse this. Yeah, there's not much in the metadata. So it is returning a string. That's right, because it's an iframe posting a message and it can only do a string. And then you got to parse it back into JSON. Mm-hmm. So we'll take that message and JSON.parse it. Hey, now it's an object that we can go through, and it has a dot event and a title. Oh boy, sorry. Where was I? There. Okay, dot event. Is that it? Yeah. And then it'd be really redundant to copy this text widget and JSON parse that message 5 times just to get each of those. But you get the point. You'd probably want to write a function or something to split that out, so you're not running JSON parse on the message every time. But just for looks, just to get something in here, you know, there's event title and then description or whatever else that you want to add. Was that a field name? Start there. So now when I click anywhere, it's going to pull up the same one modal, and the event might be blank. But if it's an existing event, now there is some data to show. And so the next step would be to make that conditional and have 2 modals, and one's for create and one's for update. But again, I think that's a little too deep. That probably shows the basics and enough that somebody could do that on their own. So
yeah, that was actually a lot. You went full into that. I think definitely people just learn a lot about the full calendar JavaScript and how to interact back and forth with the iframe. And we just saw 2 options. One is importing the JavaScript library directly into the libraries from GSDeliver, or just use the library injected into the iframe and interact with the iframe very easily, just like you just mentioned.
Yeah, there's quite a few libraries that do work, but if you run into one that just won't import no matter which CDN you try, then you can always do it in an iframe and post messages back and forth.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I mean, that's a lot of knowledge in this session already. We have been 1 hour and 25 minutes streaming, just pure knowledge straight from Joseph's mind, nothing pre-prepared, as you have seen. And the good thing is that, yeah, you can also show us when something doesn't work, how to approach it, you know, how to go to documentation and try to analyze what's going on and debug. And that's something really cool that you don't get from a pre-recorded video, because we try to make the best example out there. But definitely this live coding sessions is helpful for you, so you can see the bits and bytes and how we approach, if a library is not working, or how to approach different things within Appsmith. There is no one single turnkey solution. Definitely there's multiple ways to do things in Appsmith, because it's a very open development framework for no code and low code. So this is actually great for all of our audience for sure. Joseph, do we have any other thing that we want to explore for this live session?
The other topics that we didn't get to, some cool stuff there. I think the Slack workflow one has tons of cool use cases to where you can get your team involved. You send them a link, they respond right there in Slack, or that link could bring them back to the Appsmith app. That's probably a bit more involved than we can, knock out in the next few minutes. But maybe the next session could be on that, or if you're interested in that stuff, I've got a tutorial out there on the community. I could show maybe one more example. We can't build anything, but maybe the SVG generator that you were talking about.
Yeah.
The
Yeah. The SVG generator, that's nice.
Yeah, we did show it on the Appsmith Innovate, but
and as you mentioned, that template is already published to the community portal and also the article. So make sure to go to the portal. That's definitely the center place for knowledge, to learn more. Hey, everyone, Joseph is insane. Like, he posts so much content every week. I can't keep up with his. He's definitely going super crazy with the amount of content he's creating, and it's super valuable. Like, all of the different tutorials. I see, integrations with Jira and automations with N8 and Slack integration. It's just amazing. So take advantage of that, and you can definitely learn a lot, not just for the specific scenario that he's showing. Maybe you don't want to connect to Jira, but the mechanism he's showing on how to connect to Jira can definitely work for whatever integration you're trying to achieve. Maybe it's not to Jira, but maybe it's to Asana or GitHub Issues or whatever other platform. That's fine. At the end, the integration on how to pull data from a data source or an API, how to authenticate to an API, etc., can definitely work for you. So it's not just the fact of what he's using as an integration example, but the mechanism he's showing on how to do it. So there's a lot of valuable content over there. So make sure to go ahead. I'm also doing some content. I'm preparing some content. So it's not just Joseph, but the entire team here at DevRel. And not only DevRel, like, we have people from the product team, from the support team, who understands what people are maybe struggling with, and they create content for them to find solutions for any specific problems or any specific blocks that they might have. So definitely check out the community portal for sure.
Well, all right. What do you think? Should we wrap it up? It looks like there's. I don't see any other questions. We got the.
Yeah. If you have any other questions, like, let us know. If you want to check out the SVG example, maybe you can reference. We can, reference the one that we did last week in Appsmith Innovate. We're going to be posting all of the separate videos of the Appsmith Innovate session in YouTube. We already posted 3 videos in YouTube from the Appsmith Innovate, but you can go back to the live stream and just find the portion from Joseph. But we're going to be posting that specific version, only the tips and tricks that Joseph showcased, which were 10. And one of those is the SVG generator using Appsmith. So definitely go out and reference that if you need to go back and see that event, or just let us publish things. We didn't want to publish all of them all at once, because it was a lot of information and we don't want them to get lost. So we're going to be publishing probably one per day, so you can see everything that we talk in the Appsmith Innovate, which was like a 2-hour session, split it into different videos, and you can definitely gain a lot of knowledge and the different insights from Appsmith. So yeah, make sure to go there and check that out. So I think we can cut it here. Joseph, I think we don't have more questions on the chat, but if you do, let us know. And if the session is finished and you want to go back and ask us something, there's always Discord. If you want to talk on the community portal, that's great, but also the Discord is more like a chat type of conversation. So make sure to find us on Discord. You can find the link in the community portal or in our website, and from there you can definitely go to any of the different channels that we have about Hacktoberfest, about support, about general announcements, etc. But definitely that's another place that you can find us and have a conversation. Joseph, thank you so much. I think we cover a lot of things today. 1 hour and a half will just straight and pure coding.
Yeah, I'm glad we went with the JS one because we got to bounce around and do multiple examples instead of just build one thing. So looking
Yeah,
forward to doing this again.
and also I think that the JavaScript examples are very interesting because, like, connecting a data source is not straightforward, but the mechanisms are there. You just pull the credentials, put it on Appsmith, and the integration is done. But since JavaScript is just such an open world, and you can do many things in many ways, I think this was a great topic to pick. And thank you for the audience who picked this one, because as you can see, you can do it in multiple ways with JavaScript, and sometimes you don't have the sense on how to do it. So thank you, Joseph, so much for coming in today, showing all your wisdom to the community. And yeah, hopefully we will do this again in the future, maybe for the option 1 and 2. But yeah, thank you so much, Joseph. Any closing words from your end?
Yeah, just let us know what you want to see next time. Let us know what time works best. You can comment on this video now or after we get it posted online. Hit us up on Discord or drop something in the community just to let us know. But we definitely plan to do more. We just want to hear from the audience to know topics and best time of day.
Perfect. Well, I think that's it for now. Thank you so much, everyone who joined and watched. If you watch this session afterwards, also let us know in the chat. That's okay. We can take a look at the chat comments afterwards, or also go to the Discord or the community portal. Thank you so much, Joseph. Thank you so much, everyone who joined. And we'll definitely see ourselves next week for the Hacktoberfest prizes and for upcoming sessions that we will be publishing in the events page. If you don't know where to find upcoming events, just go to events.appsmith.com. There you will see all of the upcoming events that you can subscribe. All of them are free. We have for November joint collaborations, very interesting. I'm already recorded some of those, and some of those will be actually happening completely live. We will be again coding integrations in live, which is great. And definitely make sure to stay tuned for the upcoming events. Again, thank you so much for those who joined, and keep appsmithing, like I always say. Bye bye, Joseph.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye bye.